I want to know what happened to Chet-Baker. Have you seen Chet-Baker's face? I mean the one that it became. His skin was shriveling up in the pictures I myself have come by, shrinking back as if it would rather not have been attached to his particular body. And those eyes were definitely not the eyes of someone sober. I want to know what happened to Chet-Baker, not because I think he was the greatest singer or trumpeter that ever lived. I don't. I want to know what happened to him because, nevertheless, he was it once. The chap to beat once. James Dean himself was only an emulation of this man. James and Chet both died young, it seems, but Chet stayed standing somehow. I reckon it was with the help of many walls to lean on. And when he finally got his teeth kicked out over one of his many heroin debts, he learned to play that horn of his just fine and plain again like he always had through his new fake set. And like every other icon, we remember the prime of him, the fine of him, the clean, the white, the young. But what do we forget? Take a long look at the pictures on the albums I know you must still own. What do we forget that makes a man's eyes go sappy like he's been begging for change all his life? What makes a man beg for chump change all his life instead of planting his gifts? What makes a man take his own life after 40, 50, 60 years of survival? How is it that cans of soup and bottles of liquor accomplish these things? What is it that newspapers really say that we who remain haven't heard yet? Or is it the rolling papers? Are they the ones that speak? The spoons and needles? How about the railway stations? Is it the highways, the county lines, the home stretches? All the young faces and all those little landlocked towns Chet-Baker blew through, flew back to him all at once. The stages, the gymnasiums and granges, the ways he used to say yes at the start of the night, to say, hear my horn, hear my voice, see my face on this stage. Do you feel what I feel? Is it still sweet? Have you seen the later traces Chet-Baker left behind? Were they sweet? I know for certain, one morning, Chet-Baker stood up, looked at himself. He thought of all the ballads he knew by heart, and he remembered what they meant. He stood up and he looked at himself in the mirror and he stared as if he had never gotten to know his own face. So, alone in his reflection, he wished he were king again. Like back in the days he didn't stand alone in mirrors. When he knew he was himself a mirror people wanted to reflect themselves in. And when they would not ever have mistaken him for a goddamn bum. He stood up, he saw the clock ticking forever and thought of his high school sweetheart. He saw his own face in the mantelpiece pictures of his father, and he wondered how long ago he himself had passed on too. He wanted to ask out loud in the middle of the silence and the darkness, if everyone dies young who has lived on a stage enough, who has laid down next to their lovers and wondered when it would end enough, this constant searching and singing and hoping for applause, this forever waiting for the best high yet to last the whole night through. He stood up, he saw the needle hanging from his arm, his limp dick, his soaking dentures. Chet-Baker finally realized everyone does die young one way or another. He realized we could only long for him once he was gone. He knew we'd long to know what happened, why he was gone before he left. We would be left with his voice and his solos on acetate. Be left with little lives of our own we were trying not to squander. Be left with these terribly stifling questions about how truth comes out in music, even through a person's plastic teeth.